There's a high demand for trades workers across Canada, and many of them are well-paying opportunities too. But the question is why? So joining us to talk about trades is Kevin Wiber. He is the Associate Dean of the Centre for Trades and Apprenticeships at Lethbridge, Polytechnic. That's a mouthful, but great to have you with us today, Kevin. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Okay, so Kevin, to what degree is there a shortage of these trades workers in Alberta and in Canada?
Industry in Alberta has identified a need for 30,000 additional tradespeople across a variety of trades, all trades in Alberta. It's been estimated that for every 4 tradespeople who retire, and there's a lot of us who are getting to that stage, only 1 re-enters the trade. So that means that we have a real big backlog. To show you the demand that we have right now, Alberta currently has 74,000 apprentices across 59 designated trades. And last year in October, we had 59,000. So the demand is up
It
huge.
is. That's incredible. So, Kevin, why is there a shortage? Is it that people would rather work at something more traditional, like a white-collar desk job, or something a little more glamorous, less nitty-gritty that doesn't require as much physical effort? What do you think?
Trades have suffered a stigma for a number of years. They've been seen as more suitable for less academically inclined people, and as a job rather than a career, which I think was a big impact. Both those assumptions, by the way, are wrong. Tradespeople are typically qualified with very little debt because 80% of their education is actually in a working environment. And the well-qualified tradesperson is very seldom ever out of work. It's a great opportunity from that standpoint. Many people viewed the trades training as limited because it didn't ladder into more advanced styles of education. In July of 2022, the Skilled Trades Act embraced something that they're referring to as a parity of esteem by providing academic recognition for trades training. So now a trade certification is accompanied by an academic credential based on the rigor of the trades training. These range from a certificate of achievement to an advanced diploma. So hopefully we're going to get some more people seeing the potential.
Okay, well, Kevin, so maybe tell us which trades are most in demand at this point.
All trades are in quite a bit of demand right now. We look at the major ones that we're seeing the biggest demand on would be welding. Electricians is another one that's really in strong demand. Heavy equipment technician is another one that's in strong demand. Automotive sees a fairly strong demand, and construction trades are huge.
Okay, and that's across Canada. Is Lethbridge any different than the rest of Canada? Like, do we have a lot of that shortage of trades here as well?
We do. The biggest difference that we recognize in Lethbridge, especially as opposed to the rest of the province, is that our main economic driver is agriculture, not oil like a lot of the northern neighbors. Because of that, we see a little bit of a difference in where the trade demand is. We don't see the big fluctuation in welders, for example, or heavy equipment technicians that flow with the oil patch. What we do see, though, that's consistent across the province and across Canada is the demand for construction people.
Interesting. And, I think a lot of people overlook how much money there is to be made in the trades. So what kind of salaries could a potential student be looking at earning once they graduate?
There's a lot of different aspects to that. If we look at a carpenter, for example, the government website for apprenticeship tells us that the average salary there is about $75,000 a year, or about $33 an hour. The spectrum across trades goes from minimum wage for an entry-level job easily into 6 digits. The other thing that happens with trades is that that's the biggest sector of entrepreneurial effort. So a lot of people in trades start their own businesses, and then of course the opportunity to earn is significantly in their hands. So.
Oh, isn't that the truth? So let's say like a Red Seal worker, so what kind of hourly wage maybe or yearly salary would Red Seal workers receive as, say, a carpenter, for example?
Carpenters, the average that we see it is about $75,000 a year. There is a regional difference as well. Typically, when we talk trades in Alberta, if you go north, you make a little more money.
Interesting. Okay. And of course, like you said, a lot of them do start their own businesses, and then like sort of the sky's the limit from there. So a student that's graduating, what could they look at being the lowest potential average wage for a trades worker? And then what would be the highest? I know you mentioned up into the six figures and beyond, depending on what they're doing, but what can they look at to start?
It's a difficult thing to answer because of the broad spectrum of trades. But
Sure.
typically we're seeing people be in the $25 to $30 range getting into trades, and then moving up as they get better qualified.
Yeah, so it seems like there's a real great opportunity for young people to earn a very good living by learning a trade. So how would a viewer go about applying to learn a trade?
The typical pathway to get into trades through an apprenticeship style education is to go out and find an employer. Once you find the employer, you go to work for them. So you're earning a wage already. You work for them for about typically 10 months, and then you come to school for 2 months. 80% of the learning actually happens on the job, and 20% in technical training at one of the 11 institutions across the province that provide apprenticeship training. The difficulty with going into apprenticeship that way is that some employers justifiably are reluctant to hire somebody with no background or no experience. So the college programs, the certificate programs that we offer here, they provide the bridge for that. So a student who comes into our automotive program, our pre-welding program, for example, those students can then go back to the employer and say, I have some background, I have some education, I've shown a commitment, and the employers are a lot more willing to hire them at that point. It also provides them with a step towards their total certification. At the end of those courses, they typically write a prior learning assessment that would qualify them for their first year of technical training.
Excellent. Okay, so with that said, which of the trades programs usually fill up the quickest?
Automotive is a favorite. Our ag heavy duty program is another favorite. Electrical right now is very, very full, and our welding program right now is quite full too.
Mm-hmm. And which trades are available to learn at the Lethbridge Polytechnic at this point? I mean, all the ones you mentioned, probably a whole bunch more.
Yeah, we offer 12 different trades at Lethbridge Polytechnic.
How
we
many?
offer
I'm sorry.
12.
12. Okay.
Yeah, we offer plumbing or pipe trades. We offer carpentry. We offer electrical. We offer wind turbine technician. We offer welding. We offer automotive, heavy equipment technician, agricultural equipment technician, parts technician, power line technician, and culinary trades, cook and baker.
Wow. And what's the youngest age that someone can start learning a trade? And on the flip side of that, what's the oldest age that you've seen?
I'm really glad you asked that, because it's interesting, some of the initiatives that we have going right now at Lethbridge Polytechnic. Industry comes to us and asks for support in finding people to enter the trade. And most of the people we find who are adult have already selected their trade. They already have an idea where they're going. So what we've done is we've got some youth initiatives happening across the institution aimed at people in K to 12. The first of those is called our STEM project. So we've actually taken the material that we would teach in trades, and we've aligned it with the curriculum of K to 12, and we actually take it into the schools and offer authentic application of what they're learning in science and engineering and math. So that initiative is really useful at approaching grade 7, grade 8 students typically. Then we're doing an introduction to trades. where we bring in students, typically it would be in roughly grade 10, bring them in and expose them to all 12 trades that we offer. The exposure at that point would be a 1-day thing. So they come in and they spend 1 day trying something in plumbing. And then the following week, they'll come in and they'll try a little bit of welding.
Oh, wow. I love that. It
It's-
sounds like fun. Are you finding that girls are becoming more sort of attracted to the trades, or is it still kind of challenging to get sort of that female audience, if you would?
We've seen an increase. From a statistical standpoint, we actually had about 5 or 6% some years ago, and we're up to about 15%
Okay.
women in the trades now.
It looks like that's increasing. Is there a reason for the increase?
I think there's less of a physical demand in trades now than there was, say, when I started in trades some years ago. And certainly there's no limitation. There's no reason why a woman can't be very successful in trades.
Yeah, absolutely. You had mentioned earlier about the apprenticeship program. So now I know there's a certain number of hours of work required, and of course some school hours. So how does that work exactly in terms of graduation?
Typically, it's a span of 3 or 4 years to complete an apprenticeship program. In each of those 3 or 4 terms, there'd be 10 months of employment, of paid employment. So typically 1,560 hours in the field. And then they would come to school for another 240 hours or 8 weeks. There are some variations in that. Welding, for example, is a 3-year program. The fourth period of electrical is a 12-week program instead of an 8-week program. So there are some variations within the trades. There's also some alternative ways of delivering the material. For example, we offer something called a weekly apprenticeship training program in our parts technician. And in that case, rather than do a block release and have them leave work for 8 weeks, they come on campus one afternoon a week through the whole year. They come on campus typically at lunchtime, and they're here till about 7 at night, but it leaves them an opportunity to keep working, and they don't have to go away that way.
Okay, and this of course is where they need to sort of find that employer. Do they do that on their own, or does the school help sort of, put the two together?
We are really reluctant to do an awful lot of recruiting because we don't want to recruit within a group that's already employed. So we rely on students to do that initial contact on their own.
Okay. And then what is in it for the employer? Because they're getting somebody who's not necessarily all that experienced. They have to spend a lot of time sort of training them. Are there grants or anything that they can apply to sort of get reimbursed for the salary that they're paying the student or the wage that they're paying the student?
There's some real good guidelines around compensation. Typically in Alberta, a journeyman rate is broken down into each year of your training. So, for example, you could pay a first-year apprentice 60% of the journeyman rate. When they move into second year, they can move to 70%, and third year would be 80%, fourth year would be 90%. So that helps to soften the blow a little bit. There are some government grant programs that have come out, and they do cycle a little bit. So they'll come out and then they'll go away and something else will come in to replace it. There have been some grants. For example, last year we had a grant that went through where the federal government provided a $5,000 incentive to hire an apprentice, actually doubled it if it was a woman into an apprenticeship. So there are some grants like that are out periodically as well.
That's awesome. It sounds like a win-win-win situation for the students, the employer, and even the college, for sure. And Kevin, there has to be something said about job satisfaction and doing hands-on work as opposed to being stuck in an office all day.
Yeah. You definitely see the results immediately. And just imagine that you drive your daughter to dance class in a building that you built.
That'd be pretty wild, I have to admit. I'll never know the feeling, but maybe some of your students hopefully will.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Kevin, thanks so much for being with us today. Really appreciate having you on.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Kevin Wiber is the Associate Dean of the Center for Trades and Apprenticeships at Lethbridge Polytechnic. I'm Jeanette Roche on behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News. Thanks for watching.